She will never tell you what she truly thinks of you. Not with words. Words are the tools of the conscious mind. They can be crafted, edited, and withheld. But there is another language she speaks, a language that runs beneath her awareness, a language that reveals everything she is trying to hide. And once you learn to read it, you will never see interactions with women the same way again. Niccolo Machiavelli wrote that men judge more by the eye than by the hand. Few can feel what you truly are, but everyone sees what you appear to be. What he understood, and what most men never learn, is that perception creates its own reality. How a woman perceives you determines how she will behave toward you. And that behavior contains signals so subtle that the untrained eye will miss them entirely. Robert Greene expanded on this truth in a different way. He observed that people constantly reveal themselves through small, unconscious gestures. The tilt of a head, the rhythm of a response, the things they choose to share when they believe no one is watching closely. These micro-revelations are more honest than any confession because they bypass the filters of social expectation. Today, I am going to show you 7 hidden signs that reveal how a woman truly perceives you. Not the surface-level signals that anyone can fake, but the deep, involuntary patterns that emerge only when her unconscious mind has classified you as something rare, something valuable, something she does not want to lose. But before we explore these signs, you need to understand why they exist in the first place. Arthur Schopenhauer, the philosopher who spent his life studying human desire, argued that the will is the foundation of all behavior. What he meant was that beneath every action there is a driving force, a want, a need. And this force operates whether we are aware of it or not. When a woman encounters a man who triggers something deep within her psychology, her will begins to express itself through behavior she cannot fully control. These are not choices she makes. They are responses that emerge from a place older than logic, older than language. And this is where the hidden signs live. Now, here is where most content on this topic goes wrong. The common approach is to reduce human behavior to simple categories: alpha and beta, winner and loser. But human psychology does not work in binaries. Carl Jung spent his career mapping the complexity of the unconscious mind, and he understood that we are all composites, layers upon layers of drives, fears, desires, and contradictions. What separates men is not some fixed category. It is integration. The man who has confronted his shadow, who has brought his unconscious patterns into the light, carries himself differently. He speaks differently. He responds to pressure differently. And women, with their heightened sensitivity to social cues, detect this integration almost immediately. The signs I am about to share are not signs that she has placed you in a category. They are signs that she perceives integration, wholeness, a man who has done the internal work that most avoid, and that perception changes everything about how she engages with you. Here is what you will learn in the next 40 minutes. First, I will show you the verbal weight response, a subtle shift in how she speaks that reveals deep respect. Second, you will understand the confession instinct, where she reveals vulnerabilities without understanding why. Third, we will examine the jealousy paradox and why her testing behavior is the opposite of what it seems. Fourth, I will decode the future anchor, a powerful sign that she is psychologically investing in you. Fifth, you will see the defense mechanism in action, where she protects your image even when you are not present. Sixth, we will explore silent comfort and why her silence around you speaks louder than words. And seventh, I will reveal the behavioral mirror, the deepest sign of all, where her actions begin to reflect your own. Each of these signs has roots in centuries of psychological understanding, from Machiavelli's observations of power and perception, from Schopenhauer's analysis of will and desire, from Greene's modern synthesis of strategy and human nature, and from Jung's mapping of the depths we carry within us. By the end of this video, you will not only recognize these signs when they appear, you will understand the psychology beneath them. You will see interactions with a clarity that most men never achieve. And you will carry this knowledge forward into every conversation, every relationship, and every moment where a woman's true perception of you matters. But I must offer one warning before we continue. This knowledge is not for manipulation. Machiavelli himself was not teaching cruelty. He was teaching clarity, the ability to see reality as it is, rather than as we wish it to be. Greene writes in the same tradition, "Understanding power is not the same as abusing it. What you are about to learn should be used to recognize genuine connection, to understand when a woman truly sees you, to stop wasting time where perception is weak, and invest where perception is strong." This is about alignment, authenticity, building relationships on foundations that actually exist. With that understood, let us begin with the first hidden sign. And this one often appears within the first few minutes of real conversation. Pay attention to how she speaks to you. Not what she says, how she says it. The rhythm, the pauses, the weight she places on her words. Because when a woman perceives you as someone significant, her speech patterns change in ways she cannot consciously control. Machiavelli observed that people reveal their true assessment of others through the care they take in communication. When addressing someone they perceive as powerful, they measure their words. They pause before responding. They avoid careless statements. This is not nervousness in the typical sense. It is instinctive calibration. Robert Greene calls this the law of respect. People treat you according to how they perceive your value. If they see you as common, they speak to you casually, carelessly. They interrupt. They half listen. They let their attention wander mid-sentence. But if they perceive you as rare, their attention sharpens. Their speech becomes more deliberate. They lean into the conversation rather than drifting away from it. The first hidden sign is what I call the verbal weight response. When a woman views you as someone of substance, you will notice that she pauses before answering your questions. Not awkward pauses, thoughtful ones. She is weighing her words, considering how they will land. This is the behavior of someone who cares about your perception of her. Think about how you speak to someone you do not respect. Your words come freely, carelessly. You do not monitor yourself because their opinion holds no consequence for you. Now think about how you speak to someone you deeply respect, someone whose perception of you matters. Your speech becomes more intentional. You choose words with greater care. She does the same. And she does it without realizing. Arthur Schopenhauer wrote about the concept of the will to life. This driving force beneath all human behavior seeks connection, survival, and reproduction. When this deep will identifies someone as valuable, it mobilizes resources to secure the connection. Attention sharpens, self-awareness increases, behavior becomes more calculated. The verbal weight response is a product of this mobilization. Her will has identified you as significant, and now her communication centers are working harder. She is monitoring herself, editing herself, trying to present her best self because, on some level, she senses that your opinion of her carries weight. Now, there is a shadow version of this sign that you must learn to recognize. Some women have developed a social mask so refined that they can simulate thoughtfulness without truly feeling it. They have learned that appearing to care about a man's words is an effective tool for gaining what they want. Jung would call this persona management, the construction of a false self designed for external approval. So, how do you tell the difference between genuine verbal weight and performed interest? The answer is consistency. A woman who is performing will eventually drop the mask. When she believes the stakes are low, her speech will revert to carelessness. She will interrupt. She will check her phone. Her attention will scatter. But a woman whose verbal weight is genuine will maintain it even in relaxed moments. Because for her, it is not a strategy. It is an involuntary response to how she actually perceives you. Watch her over time, across multiple conversations, across different contexts. If the verbal weight remains stable, if she continues to pause, and measure and lean in even when there is nothing obvious to gain, then you are seeing genuine perception at work. There is another dimension to this sign. Notice what happens when you share something personal, something real. If she perceives you as common, she will respond quickly. Perhaps with a generic phrase, perhaps by redirecting the conversation back to herself. But if she perceives you as significant, she will receive what you share with weight. She will pause. She will let it land. She might ask a follow-up question that shows she actually processed what you said. Schopenhauer wrote that most people listen only to respond. They are not absorbing. They are waiting for their turn. But when someone genuinely values you, they absorb first. Response comes second. This is the deeper layer of the verbal weight response. Now, here is how you should use this knowledge. Do not chase validation by testing for this sign constantly. That is the behavior of insecurity. Instead, simply notice. Observe her patterns across time. Let the data accumulate without forcing conclusions. Because the truth about how she perceives you will emerge through consistent behavior, not isolated moments. Machiavelli warned against wishful thinking. The prince, who sees what he wants to see, rather than what is, will eventually be destroyed by reality. Apply the same discipline here. Do not interpret one thoughtful pause as proof of deep respect, and do not dismiss one careless moment as proof of disrespect. Look for patterns. The verbal weight response is the first hidden sign because it often appears earliest. Within minutes of genuine conversation, you can begin to notice whether she is measuring her words or letting them fall carelessly. And this initial data point will inform everything that follows. But verbal weight alone is not enough. It tells you that she perceives you as significant. It does not tell you the depth of that perception. For that, we need to examine something more vulnerable, something she cannot easily hide. In the next segment, I will show you the second hidden sign, the confession instinct. This is where she begins to reveal things she did not plan to share, and the psychology behind why she does it will shift your understanding of attraction entirely. When a woman begins to perceive you as someone of genuine substance, something unusual starts to happen. She starts telling you things she did not plan to say, secrets, fears, embarrassments, stories she has told no one else. And the strange part is that she often does not know why she is doing it. This is the confession instinct, and it is one of the most reliable indicators that her perception of you has shifted to a deeper level. Schopenhauer understood that human beings carry enormous psychological weight. We walk through life with burdens we cannot share, shames we cannot voice, truths about ourselves that we hide from the world because we fear judgment. This weight accumulates. It presses against us from the inside, and it seeks release. But we cannot release it to just anyone. The psyche has protective mechanisms. It guards our vulnerabilities carefully. To confess something real, we must first perceive the listener as safe, and more than safe. We must perceive them as worthy of holding what we are about to share. When a woman begins confessing to you unprompted, she is revealing something profound about her perception. Her unconscious mind has classified you as trustworthy, substantial, capable of holding her truth without using it against her. This classification happens beneath conscious awareness. She does not decide to trust you. She discovers that she already does. Robert Greene writes about the power of drawing people out. He observes that most people are so starved for genuine attention that they will reveal almost anything to someone who truly listens. But there is a difference between someone revealing themselves because they are desperate for attention and someone revealing themselves because they perceive you as rare. The distinction lies in what they confess. When someone is simply desperate to be heard, they will share surface-level drama, complaints about work, gossip about friends, stories designed to make them seem interesting. But when someone perceives you as genuinely significant, they share differently. They share downward, into vulnerability, into the places they normally protect. Watch for confessions that carry risk, admissions of failure, acknowledgments of fear, stories from childhood that still carry weight, descriptions of mistakes she has never fully forgiven herself for. These are not things she shares lightly. And when she shares them with you, she is signaling a level of trust that goes far beyond casual interest. Carl Jung developed the concept of the shadow. This is the part of ourselves that we hide from the world, the aspects we are ashamed of, the traits we deny, the memories we wish we could erase. Most people spend their entire lives concealing their shadow, terrified of being seen in full. But when someone perceives you as capable of holding their shadow, the confession instinct activates. They begin, almost involuntarily, to show you the parts they hide from everyone else. This is not a choice. It is a psychological release. And it only happens when the unconscious mind has determined that you are safe enough and significant enough to witness what is normally kept in darkness. Now, there is a critical point here. The confession instinct is not something you should try to force. Do not probe for secrets. Do not pressure her to reveal. This creates the opposite effect. She will sense the extraction and her defenses will harden. The confession instinct must arise naturally. It emerges when you create the conditions for it. And what are those conditions? Presence, non-judgment, the ability to listen without immediately advising, fixing, or relating everything back to yourself. Epictetus taught that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we may listen twice as much as we speak. When you embody this ratio, when you become a space where someone can speak without interruption or judgment, the confession instinct has room to emerge. There is also a timing element. The confession instinct usually does not appear in the first conversation. It requires multiple interactions, a gradual building of comfort. She is testing the waters, sharing small things first to see how you respond. If you handle the small confessions well, if you receive them without judgment or weaponization, she will go deeper. Machiavelli wrote about the importance of patience in statecraft. The ruler who rushes toward his objectives often destroys them. The same applies here. Let her confessions come at their own pace. Each one is a test, whether she knows it or not. And how you respond to each determines whether she will offer the next. Here is what most men get wrong. When a woman confesses something vulnerable, they either try to fix it or they try to match it. They offer advice she did not ask for. Or they rush to share their own story, making the moment about themselves. Both responses close the door. Both signal that you are not actually receiving what she is offering. The correct response is simpler. Receive it. Acknowledge it. Hold space for it without rushing to fill the silence. Let her feel that what she shared landed, that it was heard, that it mattered. This is the response of a man she perceives as substantial, and it confirms her instinct to confess further. The confession instinct is the second hidden sign because it reveals depth of perception. Verbal weight shows that she perceives you as significant. Confession shows that she perceives you as trustworthy with her interior world. These are different levels, and both must be present for genuine connection. But perception is not static. She will test it. She will probe your frame to see if it holds under pressure. And this brings us to the third hidden sign, the jealousy paradox. What she is really doing when she tries to provoke a reaction, and why your response in these moments matters more than almost anything else. At some point, she will test you. This is not optional. It is built into the architecture of how women assess men. And the most common test, the one that catches most men off guard, involves jealousy. She will mention another man. She will describe attention she is receiving. She will engineer situations designed to provoke a reaction from you. Most men fail this test immediately. They either explode with visible jealousy, revealing their insecurity, or they pretend not to care with such forced indifference that their insecurity becomes obvious anyway. Both responses confirm the same thing, that her perception has power over your emotional state, that you can be destabilized by her words. But here is what most men never understand. The test itself is a sign. The jealousy paradox is the third hidden indicator that she perceives you as significant. Because a woman does not bother testing a man she has already dismissed. Machiavelli wrote extensively about how rulers test those around them. They create situations, they observe responses, they probe for weakness before granting trust. This is not cruelty, it is intelligence. The stakes of trusting the wrong person are too high to proceed without verification. She operates by the same logic. If she perceives you as potentially significant, she needs to verify that her perception is accurate. She needs to see how you handle pressure, how you respond to threat, whether your composure is genuine or performed. And the jealousy test is one of the most efficient tools for this assessment. Robert Greene describes a law of power that applies directly here. He writes that you must never appear to be trying too hard. Effort reveals insecurity. When you react strongly to a jealousy provocation, you reveal effort. You show that maintaining your position requires work. But when you respond from genuine security, from an internal state that is not threatened by her words, you demonstrate something rare. The correct response to the jealousy test is what Schopenhauer would call a manifestation of the integrated will. Your response should not be suppression, pretending not to care while turmoil roils beneath the surface. She will sense the pretense. Instead, your response should emerge from a place where you genuinely are not threatened, where her mention of another man does not destabilize you, because your sense of self does not depend on her validation. This is the paradox. She tests you with jealousy to see if you are the man she hopes you are. If you fail, by reacting with insecurity, you prove that you are not. But if you pass, by responding from genuine security, you confirm her perception, and her attraction deepens. Now, there is nuance here that most advice ignores. Responding from genuine security does not mean responding with coldness. It does not mean punishing her for the test. Jung understood that integration includes access to the full range of human emotion. A man who cannot express warmth, who responds to every situation with calculated detachment, is not integrated. He is defended, and women can sense the difference. The integrated response to a jealousy test is often lighter than men expect. It might include humor. It might include a knowing smile that acknowledges what she is doing. It might include genuine curiosity about the situation she is describing. What it does not include is visible threat, visible insecurity, or visible effort to appear unaffected. Here is a deeper layer. When she tests you with jealousy, pay attention to what happens next. Watch her response to your response. If she seems relieved, if her energy softens, if she moves closer rather than pulling away, you have passed. She was hoping you would respond exactly as you did. The test was not an attack. It was a hope disguised as a provocation. Marcus Aurelius wrote about focusing only on what is within your control. Your emotional response to her words is within your control. Her choice to test you is not. When you internalize this truth, the jealousy test loses its power to destabilize. You recognize it for what it is: data, information about her perception, and an opportunity to confirm what she is hoping to see. There is also a long-term dimension to consider. Early in a connection, jealousy tests are frequent. She is still gathering information, still verifying her perception. But if you consistently pass, if you repeatedly demonstrate genuine security, the frequency of tests decreases. Not because she stops caring, but because she no longer needs verification. She has seen enough. Machiavelli observed that trust, once established, requires less maintenance than trust that remains in doubt. The same applies here. Pass enough tests and she will stop testing. Not from lack of interest, from certainty. Now, a warning. Some men learn about jealousy tests and begin engineering reverse tests. They try to provoke jealousy in her to see how she responds. This is a mistake. It reveals that you are playing games rather than operating from genuine security. And women, with their heightened sensitivity to social dynamics, will sense the manipulation. Your role is not to test. Your role is to be untestable, to carry yourself in a way that makes testing feel unnecessary. This is the deeper teaching beneath the jealousy paradox. The third hidden sign appears when she tests you. The test itself reveals perception, and your response either confirms or destroys what she hoped to see. But passing tests is not enough. For genuine connection, she must begin investing in a shared future. She must start placing herself in your tomorrow. And this is the fourth hidden sign: the future anchor. When she begins speaking about time that has not yet happened as though you will be there together, listen for the future in her words. When a woman begins to perceive you as truly significant, her language will start to include you in events that have not happened yet. She will mention a restaurant she wants to try and phrase it as something you could do together. She will reference a concert months away and assume your presence. She will speak about seasons that have not arrived as though you will experience them side by side. This is the future anchor, and it is one of the most telling signs that her perception of you has solidified into something she does not want to release. Schopenhauer wrote about how the will expresses itself through projection. We do not simply experience the present. We constantly project ourselves into imagined futures. And the people we include in those projections reveal what our will has determined to be valuable. When she anchors you into her future, she is revealing an unconscious decision. Her psyche has assessed you. It has measured your value. And it has concluded that keeping you present in her life is worth the investment of imagination. This is not casual. It is costly. Because every future she imagines with you is a future she is not imagining with someone else. Robert Greene observes that people reveal their priorities through where they direct their attention. Attention is the scarcest resource we possess. We cannot attend to everything. We must choose. And when a woman chooses to project you into her future, she is allocating precious psychological resources in your direction. The future anchor usually begins small. She might mention something happening next week and ask if you are free. She might reference a film coming out next month and suggest you could see it together. These early anchors are tests of their own kind. She is watching to see if you receive them, if you engage with the future she is offering, or if you pull back. If you engage, if you match her investment with your own, the anchors will grow longer. The restaurant becomes a trip. The month becomes a year. She will begin speaking about holidays, seasons, and milestones as shared experiences. And each of these extensions reveals deepening perception. Now, there is shadow behavior to watch for here. Some people use future talk as a manipulation tool. They promise shared experiences they never intend to deliver. They anchor you into their future to keep you invested while they pursue other options. Sigmund Freud would recognize this as a form of narcissistic supply, using another person's hope as fuel for one's own ego. The difference between genuine future anchoring and manipulative future talk lies in consistency and follow-through. A woman whose anchors are genuine will not only speak about the future, she will take steps toward it. She will make reservations. She will mark calendars. She will reference the shared future in ways that require action, not just words. Machiavelli wrote that promises are easy. Anyone can make them. What matters is performance. Apply the same lens here. Her future talk means nothing if it is not accompanied by future action. Watch for the behavior that backs up the words. That is where truth lives. There is a deeper psychological layer to the future anchor. When a woman includes you in her imagined future, she is engaging in what psychologists call mental simulation. She is running scenarios in her mind where you are present, and these simulations have real effects on her emotional state. Albert Ellis, who built an entire therapeutic system around how thoughts create feelings, understood that what we imagine shapes how we feel. When she imagines futures with you, she experiences emotions associated with those futures. Anticipation, warmth, security, excitement. These emotions then attach to you. You become the source of how the imagined future makes her feel. This is why the future anchor is so significant. It is not just a sign of current perception. It is a mechanism that deepens perception over time. The more futures she imagines with you, the more emotionally invested she becomes. The anchor is self-reinforcing. Here is how you should respond to future anchoring. Receive it openly. Engage with the futures she offers. Add to them. Expand them. Show her that you are not only willing to be included in her tomorrow, but that you are capable of imagining tomorrow yourself. This reciprocity strengthens the anchor. It tells her unconscious mind that the investment is mutual. But do not overinvest before she has demonstrated consistency. Do not project years into the future after only weeks of connection. Match her pacing. Let the anchors grow organically. Machiavelli's principle applies here too. The ruler who rushes toward his objectives often destroys them. Patience allows the future anchor to develop strength. There is one more dimension worth noting. Pay attention to the specificity of her future projections. Vague talk about someday means less than specific talk about next Saturday. The more concrete her anchors, the more real they are to her. The more they reveal genuine perception and investment. The future anchor is the fourth hidden sign. It reveals that she has moved beyond present assessment into future projection. She is not just evaluating who you are. She is imagining who you could be together. And that imagination, once activated, becomes a force that draws her toward you. But there is another sign that reveals even deeper perception. A sign that appears when you are not even present. In the next segment, I will show you the defense mechanism. When she protects your image in conversations you never hear. And why this hidden behavior tells you more about her perception than anything she says to your face. What she says about you when you are not there reveals more than anything she says to your face. In your presence, social pressure shapes her words. She might compliment you because the moment calls for it. She might agree with you because disagreement feels uncomfortable. But when you are absent, when there is no immediate social incentive, the truth of her perception emerges. The defense mechanism is the fifth hidden sign. It appears when she defends you to others, when someone criticizes you and she pushes back, when someone questions your choices and she offers justification, when the easy path would be silence or agreement, but she chooses instead to protect your image. Machiavelli understood that loyalty is revealed in difficulty, not in ease. Anyone can stand beside you when there is nothing to lose. The true test comes when standing beside you carries cost, when defending you risks social friction, when silence would be simpler. A woman who perceives you as truly significant will feel an instinctive pull to defend you. This is not a calculated choice. It emerges from her unconscious assessment of your value. If you are valuable, then attacks on you are attacks on something she has invested in. Her defense is self-protective, even as it protects you. Robert Greene writes about the importance of reputation. He observes that reputation is a cornerstone of power and must be guarded at all costs. When she guards your reputation in rooms you never enter, she is treating your image as an extension of her own. This is the behavior of deep investment. Now, here is the complexity. You will often never know when this happens. She may defend you in conversations you are never told about. She may speak well of you to friends who never report it back. The defense mechanism often operates in darkness, invisible to you. But there are indicators. Watch how her friends and family treat you. If they receive you warmly, if they seem predisposed to like you, if they reference positive things she has said, you are seeing the downstream effects of her defense. She has been building your image in their minds before you even arrived. Schopenhauer wrote about how we create reality through perception. What we believe about someone shapes how we interact with them. When she speaks well of you to her circle, she is shaping their perception. She is preparing the environment to receive you favorably. This is not manipulation. It is investment. There is a psychological mechanism at work here that goes beyond simple loyalty. Freud identified a phenomenon called cognitive dissonance. When someone invests in you, when they defend you and speak well of you, they need to believe that their investment is justified. The act of defending you actually deepens her belief in your value. The defense reinforces the perception that caused the defense. This is why the defense mechanism is so significant. It is not just a sign of how she perceives you. It is an action that strengthens that perception. Each time she defends you, she becomes more convinced that you are worth defending. The behavior feeds itself. Now, there is a shadow version of this sign you must recognize. Some people defend partners not from genuine belief in their value, but from ego protection. They cannot admit they chose poorly. Their defense is actually a defense of their own judgment, not a defense of you. Jung would recognize this as shadow behavior, unconscious motivation disguised as loyalty. The difference lies in what happens in private moments. When you are alone together, does her behavior match the defense she offers to others? Does she treat you with the respect she claims you deserve? Or does her private treatment contradict her public defense? Alignment between public and private behavior indicates genuine perception. Contradiction indicates ego protection. Machiavelli taught that you must judge men by their results, not their promises. Similarly, judge her perception by her consistent behavior, not isolated moments of defense. Look for the pattern. Let the evidence accumulate. Here is how you should use this knowledge. Do not try to extract information about what she says when you are absent. Do not ask her friends to report back. This reveals insecurity and damages the trust that allows genuine defense to occur. Instead, observe the indirect evidence. How do people in her life treat you? What do their reactions reveal about the image she has built? And recognize that this sign is bidirectional. Just as you should observe whether she defends you, examine whether you defend her. A relationship where only one party offers defense is not a relationship of genuine mutual perception. It is imbalance. The shadow mind seeks alignment. Give what you expect to receive. There is a final dimension here worth noting. The defense mechanism often intensifies under pressure. When circumstances are easy, defense is easy. But when external forces genuinely threaten her perception of you, when criticism becomes sustained, when her social environment turns against you, watch what she does. This is the real test. Marcus Aurelius wrote about how fire tests gold. Adversity tests character. If her defense holds under pressure, if she continues to protect your image when doing so becomes costly, you are seeing the deepest form of this sign. You are seeing someone whose perception of you is not conditional on social approval. The defense mechanism is the fifth hidden sign. It reveals perception that extends beyond your presence, loyalty that operates in darkness, investment that strengthens through its own expression. But there are still two signs remaining, signs that reveal the deepest levels of perception. In the final segment, I will show you silent comfort and the behavioral mirror. These are the rarest indicators, and they appear only when her perception of you has reached a level most men never experience. The sixth sign is one of the quietest. It does not announce itself with words or gestures. It exists in the space between. And most men miss it entirely because they are too busy filling silence to notice what silence can contain. Silent comfort is the sixth hidden sign. It appears when she can sit with you without speaking and feel no need to fill the air. When the absence of words creates not awkwardness, but peace. When your presence alone is enough to satisfy whatever she was seeking. Schopenhauer wrote that most human interaction is driven by the will's restlessness. We speak to escape the discomfort of silence. We fill space because stillness feels threatening. But when two people reach genuine ease with each other, this restlessness fades. The will finds rest. And silence becomes not an absence, but a presence. This sign cannot be manufactured. You cannot create silent comfort through technique or strategy. It emerges only when her nervous system has genuinely relaxed in your presence. When her unconscious mind has determined that you pose no threat. When being with you requires no performance. Robert Greene observes that presence is more powerful than words. The ability to simply be, without constant effort to demonstrate or prove, is rare. Most people are performing at all times. Their presence is exhausting because it demands response. But when you carry the kind of presence that allows silence, you offer her something precious. Rest. Notice when this happens. Notice when conversation fades naturally and neither of you rushes to restart it. Notice when she seems content to simply exist in the same space as you. This is not boredom. It is the opposite. It is a comfort so complete that entertainment becomes unnecessary. The seventh and final sign is the behavioral mirror. This is the deepest indicator of perception. It appears when her actions begin to echo your own, not through imitation, not through conscious copying, but through the kind of unconscious alignment that occurs only when someone has internalized your frame. Jung wrote extensively about identification and projection. When we deeply connect with someone, we begin to incorporate aspects of them into ourselves. We see through their eyes. We adopt their patterns, not because we decide to, but because proximity and perception gradually reshape us. When she begins to mirror your behavior, your speech patterns, your values, your ways of moving through the world, she is revealing the deepest form of perception. She has not just observed you, she has internalized you. You have become part of how she constructs reality. Watch for subtle adoption of your phrases. Notice if she begins to reference ideas you have shared as though they were her own. Observe whether her choices start to reflect your influence. These are the signs of the behavioral mirror, and they appear only when perception has reached integration. Now, I want to be clear about something important. The behavioral mirror should not be one-sided. If she is mirroring you but you are not at all influenced by her, the dynamic is imbalanced. Genuine connection involves mutual shaping. The shadow mind does not seek dominance. It seeks alignment. Pay attention to how she is changing you just as you notice how you might be changing her. Nietzsche wrote about becoming who you are, the process of self-creation that defines a meaningful life. When you meet someone who genuinely perceives your substance, they become part of that process. They reflect back to you aspects of yourself you could not see alone. This is the gift of genuine perception. It accelerates your own becoming. These 7 signs, the verbal wait response, the confession instinct, the jealousy paradox, the future anchor, the defense mechanism, silent comfort, and the behavioral mirror, together they form a map, a way of reading what was previously invisible, a method for seeing through surface behavior to the perception that drives it. But I want to leave you with something more important than the signs themselves. Knowledge without integration is just information. It sits on the surface. It does not change you. The purpose of understanding these signs is not to collect them like trophies. It is not to manipulate women by knowing what to look for. The purpose is to recognize genuine connection when it appears, to stop wasting time where perception is absent, to invest where perception is real. Machiavelli did not teach cruelty, he taught clarity, the ability to see the world as it is rather than as we wish it to be. That is what this knowledge offers. Not power over others, but power over your own blindness. The ability to see what was always there. You are not the same person who started this video. You now carry a lens that most men will never possess. The question is what you will do with it. Will you use this knowledge to chase validation? To manufacture signs that are not genuinely present? To manipulate rather than to see? Or will you use it as it was meant to be used? To recognize when a woman truly perceives your substance. To build from genuine foundation. To align with those who see you and release those who do not. The choice defines who you become. Schopenhauer wrote that a man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills. You did not choose to seek this knowledge. Something in you drove you here. Honor that drive by using what you have learned in service of genuine connection. The hidden signs are no longer hidden. What you do with that visibility is now up to you. This has been The Shadow Mind.